Ebenshade didn't sleep. It couldn't. Something was always crawling in the dark. Whispers in fog, blood on brick, back alley deals signed in soulfire. Maybe once it knew peace. But that was a lifetime ago. These days the city just bled. I watched it from my office window, one floor up from the neon haze. Like the city, I didn't sleep either. Drove Naran crazy. But she knew the drill. So long as there were cases, rest was a luxury I couldn't afford. And the cases never stopped. They piled up like corpses in the harbor, each one heavier than the last. The cops were hanging on by their teeth, caught between the Iron Serpent's turf war and whatever crawled in from the wastes. The magical barrier around Ebenshade was supposed to hold the monsters back. Wraiths, doppelgangers, the nameless nightmares that chewed through flesh like paper. But something had changed. The barrier was failing, or worse, already gone. That's what brought me to the case I couldn't shake, the Shadow Amulet. Naran and I had been summoned, no, requested, by the Mystic Academy. High Wizard Alistair Viridian himself. When the Academy calls a gumshoe instead of the guard, it's never a good sign. Then again, the guard these days were overworked, underpaid, and about as useful as a candle in a sewer flood. Naran didn't belong to Ebenshade. One look at her told you that. Her skin held the warmth of lands where the sun wasn't just a rumor. Her black hair, always tied back in a precise knot, gleamed like obsidian blade edge. She carried herself like a warrior priestess from a dead empire, calm, coiled, unshakable. She didn't speak unless she had to, but when she did, people listened. There were stories, of course. Said she came from the plains beyond the world's end, a land of riders and spirits, where maps lost meaning. Others said she was the last of a ghost clan that lived by a code sharper than steel. I never asked. Didn't need to. What mattered was she was loyal, lethal, and always had my back. We passed the Academy's walls just before midnight. The air buzzed like live wire, thick with old magic and older secrets. Alistair was waiting, dressed in ceremonial robes that looked more costume than uniform. "Detective," he said, "Ms. Tuya." His tone was dry, the kind of dry that meant she doesn't belong here. But Naran didn't flinch. She stood still, impassive, like a statue carved from judgment itself. "This way," Alistair muttered, already turning. "The vault is upstairs." We followed him past the Academy's barrier, enchantment keyed to blood and rank, only opened because he wanted it to. Beyond it, the Academy sat like a parasite between two extremes, the filth-choked alleys of Wormbane and the gleaming towers of the Ivory Quarter. It was supposed to be a place of learning, of order. These days it felt more like a fortress afraid of its own shadows. They hated Naran, that was clear. Her magic didn't come from books or candles or whispered ancient common. It was raw, ancestral, drawn from something older than the Academy could ever hope to understand, which meant they feared it. And her. We climbed a stairwell that curled like a spine. No one spoke. Even the walls seemed to be listening. Alistair stopped at a door sealed with runes burned into obsidian. He spoke a word I didn't catch, and it creaked open. Inside were 4 wizards, twitching in the dark like addicts too long off the leash. The only light came from sputtering glyphs etched into the walls. When Alistair raised his hand, the glyphs flared. The wizards recoiled, hissing, eyes clamped shut, as healers rushed in to shield them. "They've been down here too long," Alistair said. "The Shadow Amulet prefers darkness." I glanced at Naran. She said nothing. "Fits," I muttered. "If it's tied to the wastes, still doesn't explain what you need from me." Alistair didn't waste time. "The amulet was stolen, and we believe it's been shattered. The barrier is unraveling. We need you to find the pieces." I arched a brow. "I don't have a nose for magic." His gaze slid toward Naran. "But she does." She didn't respond, just gave the faintest smirk, a small curve of the mouth that said, "I knew this was coming." I folded my arms. "Let's talk fee." Alistair tossed a pouch. I caught it one-handed, felt the weight. Heavy. I peeked inside. Real coin. "Retainer," he said. Half now. Bonus if you make this your priority. The math worked. Fine, I've been grinding gears on dead-end cases. Might as well chase something with a pulse. I turned to Naran. We start and we were back. My office, same flickering lamp, same rain tapping the glass. Wizards, I muttered. Never care how they get rid of people. I checked the pouch again. No shimmer, no sulfur. Still gold, still heavy. A good sign. Naran toyed with the carved wooden pendant at her neck, something old and sacred I never dared ask about. So, she said, voice low and calm, where do we begin? I grinned and grabbed my revolver. Someone smashed the amulet. Pieces are out there, barriers falling apart. I know someone who might have answers. She narrowed her eyes. No, you can't mean... Oh, I do. I popped on my hat and opened the door. He moves at night, but he always starts with Brindle Nix. She groaned. You really want to talk to that greasy little rat? No, but we're out of options. Time to do our good deed for the day. And just like that, we stepped back into the rain. Chapter 2. Broderick, I'll get you your money. You know I'm good for it. The voice was high and thin, wrapped in panic. Brindle Nix. Sounded like she was 2 blinks from crying. Again. We do this every night, Nixie, Broderick Crowbrow rasped, his voice dragging like rusted chain through sewer water. You owe me, and you're running out of ways to stall. A pause. Then Brindle's breathy whisper, barely audible over the buzz of flickering signage. What can I do? I've got ideas, Broderick said. Always wanted to see... That's enough, I said, stepping into the alley. The place stank of mold, piss, and cheap regret. Narrow. One way in, no way out. Just how I liked it. Broderick turned. His eyes widened when he saw me, then narrowed to slits. Cole, he spat. This ain't your business. I grabbed a fistful of his grimy shirt and reintroduced him to the alley wall. He hit with a wet grunt, ribs thudding like bad meat on stone. Trying to make a girl strip for a debt makes it everyone's business, Broderick. He flinched at the name. I let it linger. Behind me, Naran moved like clockwork, smooth, precise. She'd already plucked Brindle into her hand, cradling the pixie with a tenderness that felt out of place in a place like this. Brindle's wings twitched, her eyes distant. I've got her, Naran said quietly. Take her home, I told her. Broderick and I are about to have a moment. She nodded and turned, disappearing into the shadows with Brindle tucked safe beneath her palm. I turned back to Broderick. He was trying to square his shoulders like he still had spine. The shadow amulet's gone, I said. Talk. His laugh was shallow, all nerves and bile. I don't know nothin'. I've been working the streets. You know me, Cole. Exactly, I said, and bounced him off the wall again. Harder. Means you always know something. He winced, coughed. You know the rules. I don't talk for free. What's Brindle owe you? 5 gold. I tossed 6 coins on the ground. He scrambled like a rat, snatching them up, biting each like the shine might lie. I glared at him. She's paid. Now spill, I demanded. He licked his lips, eyes darting. Heard a whisper. Iron serpents are moving cargo. Heavy stuff. Real secretive. Docks, maybe other spots. That's all I got. The amulet, I muttered. How the hell did they get it past the Academy's wards? He didn't answer. His stare danced. Left, right, anywhere but me. He knew more. But something was cinching his mouth shut. Maybe fear, maybe magic. Who gave the order? I asked. I don't know, he blurted. Too fast. I raised a fist. He shrank like a kicked dog. Swear it, Cole. They don't tell me names. I just hear scraps, rumors, drunk serpents talking too loud in the wrong bars. But this is different. Bigger. They're scared. That made me stop. Iron serpents don't get scared. Not unless they've got a reason. I stepped back, letting him slide down the wall like melted wax. If I find out you're lying, I said, low, deliberate. Next time, Naran does the talking. He went pale. Naran doesn't bluff. And Brindle Nix, I added. She's off limits now. You even look at her again. I take your thumbs. I left him clutching his coins like they were bar nuts, blood bubbling at the corner of his mouth. Naran waited just outside the alley, arms folded, gloves dusted with grit. Brindle was gone, home, safe. She's locked in, Naran said. Ward's tight. She won't be bothered again. Good, I muttered. She's had enough. A silence settled between us, not the peaceful kind, the kind that wrapped around your ribs and squeezed. Brindle had been part of this city's background noise for years, a good soul in a bad place, always fluttering too close to flame. We'd tried to help. She never let us. What I did tonight, she'd hate it. I could live with that. Behind me, Broderick spat blood onto cobblestone. You always gotta play the hero, Cole, he rasped. I turned, walked back over, crouched low, close enough to smell the fear behind the stink. Not a hero, I said. Just not scum like you. He sneered, but his mouth twitched. I held up another gold coin, turned it between my fingers so the neon could dance across it. Start from the top. What exactly did you hear? He stared at it like it was the last sunrise. Docks, he said. Tonight, that's all. Swear on my beard. I pocketed the coin. If you're lying... I'm not, he yelped. Look, I'm scum, but I ain't stupid. I like breathing. I tossed him the coin anyway. You so much as whisper Brindle's name again, I put you in the river. I stood, turned to Naran. After a pause, I said, Let's go. Chapter 3. We left Broderick crumpled in the alley like yesterday's sin and made for the docks. The rain had started. Not a downpour, just a fine mist, soft as breath. It turned the street lamps into smeared halos, like the city was trying to hide its own shame. Ebonshade's waterfront never slept. Tonight was no exception. Cargo haulers loomed out of the dark like rusting leviathans. Tavern doors creaked on their hinges, spilling pale, flickering light onto puddled stone, dying promises in half-empty rooms. A couple smugglers in sailor drag loitered near a barrel fire, smoke curling up like lies. We didn't look at them. They didn't look at us. That's how it works down here. Think he was telling the truth? Naran asked. Her eyes scanned the fog-drenched alleys where the serpents liked to curl. He was, I said. Whether it's the truth we need, that's what we're about to find out. She said nothing else, but I could feel her beside me. Coiled steel in a worn leather coat, sharp where it mattered. The air thickened with brine and old secrets. Salt, fish oil, something that might have been rot. The harbor groaned with the weight of old ships and older debts. Stone paths slick underfoot. A good place to move something precious. Or something damned. Voices cut through the fog like broken glass. Handle it like it's glass, one barked. Boss didn't say what's in it, just said we really don't want to find out the hard way. Crates going overseas, no dents, no delays. You break it, you're dead. Any idea what it is, boss? Don't know, don't care, not paid enough to ask. That voice belonged to Brooke Mudchest, still gravel and gutter oil. He'd worked the docks since before I joined the force, back when I still thought you could arrest rot without catching the stink. Back then, Brooke was always 2 weeks from retirement and 1 bad bribe from suspension. Guess he chose the serpents instead. Still playing errand boy, Brooke? I called as we stepped out of the mist. He turned, wiped a sausage-thick hand down his face, and groaned. Should have known. Cole. His gaze moved to Naran, and the shadow. You've got no business here, he added. I've never cared much for business, I said, especially not the kind that deals in stolen relics. Brooke raised both hands like he was trying to bless the moment. I don't know what's in the crate. They say move it, I move it. I sleep just fine. Will you still sleep? Naran said, voice clean as a knife. When the wastes breach the wall because you helped ship a cursed relic off the continent? You've got kids, Brooke. What happens if they end up in the blast zone? I don't know anything about that, Brooke's voice cracked, panic flaring beneath the bluster. I just move boxes. I stepped closer. You've got the sharpest memory on this dock. I've seen you quote manifest logs down to the day. You know what's in that crate. You know where it's going. Just point us the right way. He set his jaw, thick lips flattening into defiance. Not this time, Cole. I don't owe you. You so much as breathe wrong, and I'll call security. Let them iron out that smug face of yours. I raised my hands in mock surrender. All right, I said, loud enough for the fog to carry. So you don't know where the serpent stashed that piece of the shadow amulet after all. That did it. Crates paused mid-haul, dock hands stilled, eyes flicked over shoulders. The name alone was a spark near a powder keg. Brooke stiffened, his gaze darted, rat in a maze, looking for exits that weren't there. I could hear his jaw grind. Don't stir the pot, he hissed. You want the serpents on your back? I'm not the one moving forbidden magic, I said. But if they're smart, they'll start asking why your name's on the shipment. Dockhands shifted, unsure where to stand. Nobody wanted to be near the fuse when it lit. Brooke exhaled through his nose like a furnace. Then, finally, crack. Fine. Shipment's bound for the Black Serpent. Midnight, that's all I know. The crate's already there. I nodded, kept my face neutral. That wasn't so hard. Brooke leaned in, voice low. Captain showed earlier, fancy type, fur coat, boots too clean for dock work. Said he was expecting visitors. 2 girls. Saw him head toward the ship. Didn't look like cargo hands. Didn't look too bright, either. I glanced at Naran. She gave a nod. Tight. Ready. Midnight, I said. Appreciate it, Brooke. Your part's done. I turned to the other workers, loud enough for them all to hear. If anyone here has second thoughts or sees something weird, come to us. Otherwise, load your crates, watch your backs, and stay out of what's coming. Brooke muttered behind me, but I didn't look back. The crew slowly resumed work, warily, like the air might explode if breathed wrong. Naran walked beside me, her smirk a flicker. Think he'll stay quiet? Doubt it, I said, but he gave us what we needed. I checked my watch. Now let's see what's waiting on the Black Serpent. Chapter 4. Naran and I crept across the docks like rats avoiding a spotlight. People love to romanticize sneaking around the waterfront, fog curling like smoke, shadows deep as secrets, moonlight clinging to coats. But the real docks, they never sleep, not really. Always someone yelling, always something groaning, always a bored foreman watching too closely, and always, some drunk swinging a lantern like it's a sword. We ducked behind a rain barrel near the berth Brooke mentioned. Lanterns blazed across the pier, streaking the wet planks with molten gold. Crews moved crates in a practiced rhythm, hoist, carry, stack, all muscle, no magic. Signs nailed to beams spelled it out in red. No magic on the docks. Violators will be fined or worse. A horn let out a low moan, 15 to midnight. The tempo picked up. Boots hit the boards like thunder. This is going to be tricky, Naran whispered. Don't suppose you brought an invisibility cloak, I murmured. The cleaners lost it, she said deadpan. I almost laughed, and almost blew our cover. Then he appeared, fur-lined coat, captain's hat, the kind of man who sees women as supplies. He sauntered up to the foreman like he owned the tide. Still leaving on time, he asked. Aye, Captain. Tide's yours. Good. Crew's squared away. Got a couple girls joining us, Tara and Lambie. Let them aboard when they show. Long trip ahead, and I don't like sailing without company. He chuckled. The foreman did too. Brooke wasn't lying, I muttered. He's expecting company. Then, Jonesy didn't say anything about dressing like we're heading to a mystery cruise, a voice chirped behind us. We turned. 2 women strutted down the dock like it was a runway, heels clicking, hips swaying, lips painted like war banners, clothes tight, bright, and made for business of a certain kind. Should we go back and get changed, Tara? One asked, voice syrupy and stupid. Too late, Lambie. He said midnight or no deal. We'll be rolling in coin after this. She didn't get to finish. Naran flicked a hand, and the air shimmered with hush magic. The 2 women wilted instantly, hitting the deck like rag dolls. Naran caught one under the arms. I grabbed the other before she cracked her head on the wood. In here, Naran hissed, nudging open a side door. What the hell are we doing? I grunted, half-hauling the unconscious girl. Playing dress-up, she said, already pulling off the other's stiletto heels. You want on that ship? This is the ticket. I looked at her, part shocked, part horrified. You're joking. I looked at what the 2 girls were barely wearing. I'd never shown that much skin even while bathing. She tossed me a glittery clutch. They travel light. We don't need anything but what they're wearing, and a little attitude. The clothes barely counted. Thin, loud, revealing in ways that felt like a dare. I winced. You enjoy this, don't you? Oh, absolutely, she said, already slipping into fishnet. And don't worry, you'll be the prettier one. We changed fast. The outfits were made to attract attention, and I felt every breeze like a judgment. We stashed the real Tara and Lambie in a shadowed corner, wrapped in our discarded clothes. Naran applied makeup with practiced speed. I did my best, and hoped the dim light would forgive the rest. The dock still groaned and clattered beyond the door. If anyone missed the girls, they hadn't said anything yet. Think we can pull this off? I asked. They're not looking for spies, Naran said, adjusting her top with a grin. They're looking for skirts and skin. We've got both. I gave her a deadpan look. You make a very encouraging pimp. She winked. After you, sweetheart. We stepped into the flow, our heels clacking like hammers on wood. My legs protested with every step. Naran glided like she'd done this 100 times. We kept to the edges, walking slow, hips just loose enough to sell the illusion. There you are, the captain called, spotting us. About time. He gave us a concerned look. Where are Tara and Lambie? I requested them specifically. I fought the instinct to flinch. Time of the month, I said coolly. Your girls weren't up for it. We're the replacements. He squinted, gave us the once-over, then grinned like a shark. Well now, you'll do just fine. No trouble, understand? No trouble, I said, forcing a smile. He waved us toward the stairwell. Cabins below. We shove off soon. We turned, heels tapping against the deck like a countdown. I could feel the eyes, the heat. I hated every second. Naran? She looked like she was headlining the voyage. So, boss, she murmured as we descended. What's the plan? We get below, I said, scanning for the hatch. Find the crate, fast and quiet. And if someone wants a little customer service... I didn't answer. Didn't need to. Chapter 5. The lower decks were mostly empty, just the groan of shifting timber and the occasional echo of boots overhead. The crew, it seemed, had better things to do than hang around below while the Black Serpent readied to leave port. Naran and I didn't have the luxury of time. The shard had to be here, somewhere in the belly of this floating den of smugglers, and we had to find it before we drifted too far from Ebonshade. I didn't know what would happen if the shard got too far from the city. I just knew it wouldn't be good. Thankfully, the ship's builders had labeled everything with crude wooden signs. A criminal enterprise with a surprising appreciation for efficiency. We reached the hold in short order. No guards. Why bother? Anyone dumb enough to sneak aboard would find a knife between the ribs long before they made it this far. It was locked, of course. Didn't expect a welcome mat, I muttered, fishing into my barely there top and drawing out a slim lockpick set. Really glad we skipped the captain's cabin, Naran said dryly. Explaining those during a strip search would have been tricky. I grinned. Got handcuffs in the other cup. Lambie had her kinks. The lock clicked open with a satisfying snick. I eased the door open. Darkness spilled out. Naran slipped inside, fingers brushing the wall until she found a mage lantern. A soft glow bloomed, casting long shadows across the room, and we both let out twin groans. The hold was packed to bursting, floor to ceiling, wall to wall. Boxes, barrels, crates, coils of rope, a maze of cargo, and us, dressed like we were heading to a very different kind of engagement. And we're sure it's here? I asked. It better be, Naran muttered. She closed her eyes. A shimmer passed over her skin, subtle and quick, like heat rippling off black stone. Magic. I kept still while she tuned in. The Academy said you'd be able to sense it, I reminded her. Shh. A breath, a twitch of her fingers. Then she pointed, deeper into the mess. There, faint but real, it's here. Relief punched the air from my lungs. Great. All we have to do is go crate diving in heels and lingerie. If I keep moving, I might be able to lock onto it, Naran said, starting forward. The ship shifted with a groan, timbers flexing like bones under pressure. We wove through the chaos, her stopping every few steps, eyes closed, recalibrating. Magic pulsed like radar through her veins. "It's moving," she whispered, "like it's resisting." "Tell it to cooperate," I grumbled, nearly twisting my ankle on a stray hook. "This outfit doesn't exactly scream stealth op." She pressed on, slipping between two tall crates. I followed, cursing every step until her eyes snapped open. "There," she said, pointing at a squat box half buried under a stack of others. "That's where the signal's strongest." I crouched and reached for it, then yanked my hand back. "Damn it! That thing's cursed!" Naran crouched beside me, her expression sharp. Not a bad one, just enough to sting. "Fantastic," I said. "A gentle curse. You got anything that'll cut through it?" She pulled a charm from the belt she borrowed from Tara, a thin disc etched with arcane script. "This should dampen it long enough to crack the lid." "And if it doesn't?" "We'll both be howling loud enough to bring the whole crew running." "Can't wait." She pressed the charm to the crate. The runes flared. I pried it open. Inside lay a shard of obsidian, blacker than a shadow at midnight. It throbbed faintly in the mage light, alive with dark magic. I stared. Naren nodded. "That's it. One of the missing pieces." I reached in, carefully lifting it. As soon as it left the crate, the glow dimmed, like it hated the light. "It's weaker outside the dark," I said. "This is definitely what we're looking for." A clang echoed from above, followed by the telltale groan of timbers and the slow lurch of a ship casting off. "Too late," I muttered. "We're sailing." Naran stepped back. Time to improvise. Again. I looked down at the shard, too large to hide under a garter, too obvious to carry in plain sight. Unless... I rifled through a nearby crate marked jewelry. Inside, glittering junk, fake gems, broken bangles. I found a gaudy pendant mount and pressed the shard into it. Not perfect, but snug. "What are you doing?" Naran asked. "Blending in." I strung the pendant on a thick gold chain, looped it over my neck. It dangled low, resting against the plunge of my neckline. "They'll think it's brothel bling," I said. "Just don't let it touch your skin for long," she warned. "That kind of magic burns." "Yeah, it's already warm," I grimaced, adjusting the necklace so the shard sat against the thin strip of fabric passing for a bodice. "Let's move." We slipped from the hold into a corridor tilted just slightly with the sway of motion. The ship was moving fast now, too fast to jump without drowning. "Still think this plan was smart?" I asked. "No," she said, "but it's the one we've got." Voices drifted down the hall, male, approaching. "Options?" I said. Naran pointed to a hatch marked maintenance. "Bilge access. Might lead to the skiff deck." "And if it doesn't?" "Then we hide in a rat nest and hope no one notices our shoes." I nodded once. Let's be lucky. Chapter 6. We slipped into the maintenance hatch, sealing it behind us with a quiet click. The crawl space was coffin tight, rank with salt, grease, and the sour stink of bilge water. My heels scraped against the narrow metal grate, each step a tiny betrayal of our position. Naren moved like she'd done this a dozen times, nimble despite the tight skirt and 4-inch heels. I followed, crouched low, shoulders brushing damp beams. Up ahead, a faint glow leaked through a floor grate. Naran froze, held up a hand, then mouthed, "Mage." I crept beside her and peered down. 2 iron serpents on the skiff deck, one slouched near a crate, sharpening his cutlass, the other paced, robe fluttering, staff pulsing with faint green light. His head snapped up, eyes scanning the shadows. "He feels it," Naran whispered, "the shards bleeding through the glamour." I touched the makeshift pendant resting against my chest. It was hot now, almost humming, pissed off. "Options?" I asked. "I blind the mage," she murmured, slipping a charm from her sleeve. "You take the sword." I barely opened my mouth before she pressed the charm to the grate and whispered a word. White light detonated across the deck. The mage shrieked, stumbled. His staff clattered against the rail. I kicked the grate loose and dropped through, heels skidding on the slick planks. The swordsman turned too slow. I barreled into him, shoulder first, and drove him into a crate hard enough to hear something crack. Might have been ribs. Might have been the crate. Behind me, spells roared like summer storms. Naran and the mage were trading shots, her shield of force against his crackling bolts. Green lightning slammed into a mast, sending wood shards in every direction. Then he saw me, his gaze locked on the chain around my neck. "What are you carrying?" he spat, lifting his staff. "Something you're not walking away with," I growled. A gust of wind howled between us. The mage staggered. Naran grabbed my wrist. "Move!" We ran. The longboats waited just beyond a stack of crates. I tossed one rope over the rail and peered down. 2 rowboats, rocking like drunks in the dark water. Shouts rang out behind us. Boots slammed the deck. The crew was waking up. We didn't have time. Chapter 7. The rope burned my palms as I slid. Below me, the sea heaved like a thing alive. Naran hit the longboat first, nearly tipping it, and I landed a second later in a clumsy sprawl. She grabbed the oars. I went for the knot binding us to the serpent. A second mage appeared on the upper rail, wind tearing at his robes. Fire and force coiled in his palms like living things. "Row!" I yelled. Naran already was, arms straining. The spell hit just short, exploding in a plume of sea spray that drenched us both. The boat rocked hard, nearly dumping us into the water. I clutched the shard against my chest, its heat spiking. "They're trying to swamp us," I gasped. "No kidding," Naran snapped. Another blast screamed toward us, twisting the air like a spear. It missed, but barely. I looked down at the pendant. The shard pulsed, its glow flickering against the water. "Did it do that?" I muttered. She didn't answer. Her focus was on the oars, every stroke forcing distance between us and the serpent. On the deck above, shadows gathered. More crew, more mages. We were one lucky spell away from being fish food. Then it happened. A final arc of silver fire slashed the sky and fizzled out like wet tinder before reaching us. I blinked. Naran exhaled. We crossed into the city's wards, Ebonshade's shield. They can't cast through it. I collapsed back into the boat, breath ragged. Salt in my mouth, water soaking my dress. "Remind me never to complain about the city again." She gave me a look. "You'll complain tomorrow." I smiled, bitter and tired. Yeah, but I earned it. The sea rocked beneath us. Behind, the black serpent faded into shadow. In my hand, the shard still pulsed, black and alive, like a piece of the night that didn't want to let go. Chapter 8. We rowed hard, cutting through the black water as the black serpent faded into the night. Then a spotlight cracked through the dark, harsh, blinding. "Eyes!" I hissed, shielding my face. "Skiff below!" a voice barked from above. "Identify yourselves!" "Detective Evelyn Cole," I shouted, throat raw. "That ship's crew is Iron Serpent. They used to have a fragment of the Shadow Amulet." A pause, long enough to make me sweat. Then, "Copy that. We'll handle them." Behind the patrol boat, 5 more vessels knifed through the waves, closing in on the Black Serpent fast. The harbor was no longer ours to worry about. "Let's get you ladies aboard," the voice called. A rope ladder dropped, swinging with the swell. Hands reached down. "Heads up, detective. 2 very pissed-off women were at the docks filing assault charges. We're only out here because of them." I groaned, muscles screaming as I hauled myself up. Naran followed, dragging what was left of her dress like a torn battle flag. At the top, Tara and Lambie stood waiting, smug and bone-dry, wearing our clothes like trophies. "My dress!" Lambie gasped, eyes locked on the fabric stretched uncomfortably across my chest. "You are definitely buying me a new one." I didn't answer, too cold, too soaked, and too damn tired, but I clutched the shard at my chest. That was answer enough. "Just get us back to shore," I muttered. Chapter 9. Back at the docks, we swapped back into our clothes, paying the girls off with a few of our last gold coins and bitter apologies. Then we limped up the hill to the Mystic Academy, the shard warm against my skin like it was trying to keep me moving. Alistair met us at the gate. "This is all we recovered," I said, unhooking the necklace and handing over the fragment. He took it gently, reverent almost. The second his fingers touched obsidian, the air pulsed, low, deep, like something old waking up. I stepped back on instinct. Alistair's eyes narrowed. It's stronger than I expected. How strong? I asked. He didn't answer, just turned, motioning for us to follow. We moved through the quiet halls of the academy, past sleeping students, past rows of flickering lanterns, into a deeper wing, older than the rest. The kind of place that remembered things. A sanctum, lined in glyphs, and silence thick enough to choke. A wizard was already waiting, older, severe, violet robes. Silver twisted through his beard like wire. His eyes didn't blink. "This is the piece?" he asked. Alistair passed the shard wordlessly. The wizard placed it on a stone plinth carved with runes. He hovered a hand over it, whispering something low and sharp. The glyphs came alive, glowing one by one, and then the shard ignited. But not with shadow, with light. It flared white, not clean, not soft, blinding, raw, ghostly. The plinth cracked with the force of it. The room lit up like the dead were about to speak. The wizard recoiled. "It's part of the shadow amulet," he said, breath unsteady. "But it's changed." "Changed how?" I asked. "It's been purified," he said, like he barely believed it. "The corruption's gone, burned out. It's more than shadow now, much more." "Purified by what?" He didn't answer, neither did Alistair. They just looked at me, and then at each other. "We don't know," Alistair said finally. "But if the other shards are still corrupted, and someone, or something, is cleansing them, the implications are staggering." The wizard turned his stare on me. "Where exactly did you recover it?" Naran and I exchanged a look. "Smuggler ship," I said. "Out past the reef." "And you carried it directly on your skin?" he asked. Slow, careful. I nodded, fingers brushing the empty chain. "Didn't exactly have a lot of options." He studied me like a puzzle. "Interesting," he muttered to Alistair. "Very interesting." Alistair gave a tight nod. "We'll reconvene in the morning. Get some rest, both of you. Thank you, Evelyn. Ms. Tuya." We turned to go, too tired to talk, but just before the door closed behind us, I glanced back. The shard still glowed on the plinth, white, alive, humming with power I couldn't name. And for the first time in months, the dark felt like it might lose.